Hi everyone! I am back with my February plan with me, and let me tell you, January was absolutely crazy for me, and I didn't have a lot of time to sit down and plan out a super doodly theme. Lately, I've been really into the brown craft paper look. It gives off such a calm vibe, and I actually had this brown paper bag left over from Christmas, so I thought it was the perfect time to use it. I like how it's not Valentine's Day themed because I know not everyone is into that holiday, but if you are, then you might be interested in my last year's February theme. I doodled these cute little lovebirds, and I'll link it right here if you want to check that out. But anyways, I hope you like this month's theme. It's definitely different from anything I've ever done before, so let's just jump right into the video. So this cover page and the entire craft paper vibe was inspired by bujoandreims cover page I saw on Instagram. I literally had this brown paper bag sitting around, so I ripped it up and put it to good use. To stick the pieces into my journal, I used the Tombow Mono Permanent Adhesive, which is basically just double-sided tape. I sketched out how I wanted the border to look, and I just lined up a piece of the craft paper and ripped it to fit it into my sketch. In the middle of the page, I wrote out February in a simple cursive font, and I outlined a big rectangle around it, making sure to stop at the craft paper edge, and I left a gap for my flower doodles. In the top left corner, I drew the bottom of my flower arrangement with my black micron pen, and then I continued the doodle into the craft paper with a white Sakura jelly pen. I think this gives the drawing such a cool contrast. So for the outlines, I used the Sakura pen in number 8 since it's thicker, and for the little details inside the leaves and flowers, I used the Sakura pen in number 5 since it's a lot more precise. I finished off the box in the white pen, and I added a few little dandelion fluffs floating off into the air. In the bottom right, I added another floral arrangement using my black micron pens. For the thicker outlines, I used number 5, and for the small details, I used number 2. And I added in these little lines through the leaves and flowers, which gives it a nice shaded effect, and it makes it look more intricate and realistic. Like I said, 2020 is going to be the year where I try new things for my bullet journal, so I'm adding a couple of little washi tapes to the bottom, and I love how it looks. I really wish I got washi tape sooner. Now moving on to my calendar spread, I ripped off 2 long pieces of craft paper for the bottom left and the top right corners, as well as a little oval section where I'll write February on top of. I trimmed the edges of the paper since the journal has a rounded edge, and then I drew my calendar using 5x5 squares. And here, I messed up and overdrew a line, but I easily covered it up using my Posca white marker. I threw in my monthly to-do list on the right side, and then I used my Sakura white jelly pen to write February on top of that oval craft paper. In the bottom left corner, I added a large floral arrangement doodle with these leaves and the dandelion going up the page, and I had the little dandelion fluffs floating upwards and into the brown paper. And at the bottom of the page, I wrote this quote, "Wherever life plants you, bloom with grace." And I thought it really fit with this theme. Since the craft paper added just enough color to this page, I decided to leave the inside of the calendar plain and simple, but I did add a subtle drop shadow using a light beige color, and I threw in a few washi tape pieces for good measure. For my mood tracker, I ripped off a rectangular piece of craft paper and stuck it to the top of the page. I wrote out mood using faux calligraphy, and I added some dandelion fluffs around the text. This mood tracker is pretty simple. I just added a floral arrangement doodle at the bottom, and I added 29 little dandelion fluffs floating across the page with the dates numbered next to each one. And my plan is to use these 3 different shades of beige and browns to fill in the tips of the fluffs to show my mood for the day. For my habit tracker spread, I ripped off the same rectangular shape, but stuck it to the bottom of the page this time. I kept this one really simple as well, using these rectangular box shapes. I sectioned off 30 squares and crossed out the last box since there's only 29 days in the month, and voila! That was so simple and quick to do. Like I mentioned, I really did not have a ton of time to sit down and leisurely plan out my spreads, so my weeklies are definitely on the simpler side this time. Since this month started on a Saturday, I used these 8x10 sections with a 1 square gap in between the rows. Then I used a beige Tombow marker to number the dates and add in a drop shadow. On top of the numbers, I wrote out the days of the week. It's a really simple layout, but it's still really cute. There was enough space at the bottom for a note section, so I used a little piece of craft paper and wrote notes on top with some dandelion fluffs and dots floating around the text. I like the idea of using the craft paper for my note section, so for my next weekly spread, I ripped off a sticky note sized piece and glued it to the bottom of the page. I added a little washi tape to the top to make it seem like this little note section was taped on. I used a brown Tombow marker and made these little brush stroke patterns down the page, and I wrote out the dates on top. There was some empty space at the bottom, so I added this flower doodle with a small quote that says, "Grow positive thoughts." And I used another little piece of washi tape on top of the stem to make it look like the flower was taped into my journal, and I honestly love the vibe of the spread. So simple, but so aesthetically pleasing. To finish off this page, I used my Sakura white pen to write out notes on top of the craft paper, and I added in these lines so I can write on top. Then I just added in a few dandelion fluffs, dots, and sparkles floating around the dates. For the third week, I used the beige marker again and drew these circles on the left side of the page for the dates, and right next to them I wrote out the days of the week. I used the same marker to make a border for each section, and just using my micron pen, I added some more fluffs and dots floating around across the border. For some extra pop, I added a couple of pieces of washi tape at the bottom, and that's it. Later on, you'll see that I do go back and I changed the cursive into faux calligraphy since I thought the text ended up looking a little too thin and light. And finally, onto my last weekly spread, I had to add in some more craft paper, so I used a small circular piece and taped it to the top right corner with some washi tape. On top, I doodled in some small flowers, leaves, and a little dandelion with my Sakura white jelly pen. Then for the rest of the page, I just used my Tombow Fudenosuke hard tip brush pen and added the dates, leaving around 8-ish squares in between each section so I have room to write. And then I used the brown Tombow marker to add in these little dashes on either side of the dates to create a small border and to add a little pop of color to the spread. And that is it for my February plan with me. I'm so obsessed with how this month turned out, and I'm really proud of myself for trying something completely new. I really hope you all liked it too. At the end of the video, I'm showcasing a couple of amazing recreations of my 2020 setup. You guys always do such a great job, and I truly love seeing these. So if you decide to recreate any of these spreads, please tag me on Instagram at AFCXX3 to be featured in my next video, and I will see you all next time. Bye!